Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Change Management. This is the podcast in which I talk about everything you need to know about the people side of change. My name is Isabella Brusati and I'm going to be your host. Today I'm going to discuss briefly the book of the month. This is something, I read a lot and lots of people ask me, listen, I am new to change management. What do you think is a great start? Well, again, I like to keep things, let's say, as objective as possible. And I think that this book called The Effective Change Manager. So for those that are watching the video version of this podcast, you will see that I am actually showing it on my iPad. Otherwise, for those that are listening to this episode, I'm going to put the link in the description box. By the way, I am not sponsored by the CMI. Is at the Change Management Institute, but I think that this is a great starting point because it's the change management body of knowledge. So it talks about fundamentally the three different levels of maturity of change management practitioners. And it talks about the level of the competencies that people can develop in the three levels. So it starts off with the foreword. Of course, I'm not actually going into a lot of detail because I don't want, of course, to be in breach of copyright. It's not the intent. And it starts basically by showing the purpose of the CMBok, so it's body of knowledge. Specifically, it's basically to describe and define the knowledge that underpins effective practice in a trade profession. The intended audience, again, I'm reading from it, is a change management practitioners, those seeking accreditation through Red Change Management Institute, people employing change managers or contracting for change management services, and then authors, students, academics with well-researched information. We can see that the PMBok then is giving us an outline of the three levels of maturity on the discipline of change management, which is project change management, which is, say, the starting point, business change readiness, and then the most mature, which is the organization change leadership. And we can see that there are several areas like change management context, defining change, managing change outcomes and benefits, stakeholders engagement, change impact, change readiness, communication and engagement, facilitation and co-design, capability and learning, sustaining change, continuous planning, human dynamics, organizational context. And you can see that basically for each one of these 13 areas, there is an outline of the competencies that people should have, whether they are at project level of maturity, business level of maturity, or organization level of maturity. Then what the CMBok does is to basically give you the framework, which is based, first of all, on the context. So the focus on the environment for change. And this is basically described in chapter 2 and 3 of the CMBok. And then we got basically practice, which is the seventh circle, and focus on change practice on how we apply the theory. And it goes through some of the most, I would say, common areas of change management. So, for example, stakeholder strategy, change impact, change readiness assessment, etc. So it goes from chapter 4 to chapter 11. And then there is the theory. So if we go back here, you can see that here is the theory. And it's actually focused on the change standards, model, methods, approaches, toolbox of change practitioners and elements related to the theory of change, which is actually in chapter 1. And then there is you. So you as a change management practitioner, whether you already are a change practitioner or you as a change practitioner in the future. And this is actually about human dynamics and organizational context. Also, there is a framework that the CMI has come up with. And this is the second edition, so it was published in 2022, so it's actually very recent. And I think it's a great starting point. Again, it's not that by reading the CMBok, so the change management body of knowledge, you will come out as change management practitioner that can do everything. But if you're starting out, if you're not sure whether you want to go into change management, of course, I mean, one starting point can be to talk to people that are already in the field, but it's also make up your mind by reading. Books or resources that go through the competencies level of maturity in a more, I would say, structured way. And then you can decide whether you want to deepen some of these areas or maybe go, you know what, that's not exactly what I want to do. Also, if you are already a change management practitioner and maybe you've been working in the field for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, sometimes also looking at the change management body of knowledge can give you basically an opportunity to understand your level of maturity and also what are the areas of improvement. Some people tell me, oh, I've been in this field for 20 years. There's nothing that I need to learn. It's very worrying because I think that there is always something to learn. I'm a basically student for life. I'm always, reading. I'm always talking to academics, to other change practitioners, to clients, because the discipline is evolving. I mean, neuroscience is super fascinating, and by, for example, getting more knowledgeable about neuroscience, that doesn't mean I have to become a psychologist, but is actually having a better understanding of why people, for example, react to change in a certain way. And the same thing basically is the tools that can be used. For example, I see lots of people talking about digital transformation without having a lot of understanding of what it is. And it's a shame because there is a lot of material out there, but it also requires, first of all, humility of sitting down and say, you know what, I know from A to P, but when it comes to Q, not sure about that. So he's saying, okay, how can I better my level of understanding and my experience? And also, it's the willingness to be, the best professional that you can be. But whether you're starting out in change management or whether you've been around the block for a little bit more, I definitely think that reading the body of knowledge is a great opportunity to define where you are in your journey and how you can improve and get to the next stage. I'll see you in the next episode.